What mosquitoes might have to do with geopolitics, Panama will tell you most directly. Today is an entertaining history of the world's most ambitious super-construction project. Today, the Panama Canal, which connects the Caribbean Sea to the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans, is still considered one of the greatest and undoubtedly most challenging construction projects in the history of mankind. Its length is relatively short, only 81 kilometers and 600 meters, 65 kilometers more on land, and 16.5 kilometers on the bottom of the Limón and Panama Bays. All these figures are of interest to sociologists, geologists, ichthyologists, and to some extent historians. But the Panama Canal is a real revolution in the economy and shipping on our vast planet. Before the putting into operation of the canal, ships had to overcome almost 23,000 kilometers between the two cities. Thanks to the canal built by mankind, this distance was reduced to only 9.5 thousand kilometers. The canal is located in Panama City, which sounds like a place with a lot of fish in the Amerindian language. Panama is a beautiful and fascinating country, and the Panama Canal is one of its main attractions, a kind of monument to the persistence and heroism of people who took part in its construction. In 2012, on the pages of the most popular not only in the US, but also in the world newspaper The New York Times, was published a list of places that are recommended on a mandatory basis to people who are fond of traveling and tourism. Interestingly enough, this small list, by the way, was headed by Panama. As already mentioned, the channel, which connects two great oceans in a convenient location for navigation, was needed. It was well understood not only by our contemporaries, but also by people living in the distant 16th century. That's when Alessandro Malaspina proposed a unique project to build the Panama Canal. This idea has caused a surge of fury. King Philip II of Spain, who was a zealous Catholic, what God created on earth, what he saw fit to connect, we just have no right to tear, said the king, and in a special document approved a ban not only on construction, but even on the development of any such projects. Documents which have reached our days allow historians to draw a definite conclusion. The first construction of the Panama Canal began in 1879 and turned into a terrible disaster, a catastrophe for humanity and a catastrophe for the economy. A nightmare received the name Panama Canal construction at the end of 19th century, led by Ferdinand Lepsius, who had already become famous at the construction of the Suez Canal. The loud name of the head of the construction did not cause society and influential businessmen of the time even the slightest doubt, and the success of the company in Paris was officially registered. The company, called the General Company, not Interoceanic Canal, its shares enjoyed consistently high s. There was nothing surprising in it. Everyone piously believed in the success of the grandiose construction. By the way, in one Forbes magazine, a wealthy investor gave a short interview in which he confessed that if he had lived at the time, having studied all kinds of risks, he would have invested most of his money in the construction of the Panama Canal without a single doubt. 9 long years had passed since construction began. More than $300 million had been spent, which at the time was considered a colossal sum. Not even a third of the work was finished, and the budget was exceeded. Ferdinand Lepsius's project was fundamentally flawed. His inaccurate calculations not only led to the bankruptcy of the company, but also took the lives of more than 20,000 people. People died one by one. Yellow fever and malaria struck them. Doctors could not cope with the epidemic. Workers fled the construction as from a place cursed by God, one of the chief engineers wrote in his reports. Ferdinand Lepsius was accused of a major scam and arrested. Naturally, this brilliant architect did not want to enrich himself in such a way, so he lost his mind after suffering such a blow to fate. The story of the first construction of the Panama Canal will forever remain a dark stain in history. Now, the pyramid scheme's biggest financial scam is often referred to as Panama, a reminder of the biggest scam of the late 19th century that was not to be. Still, the Panama Canal was necessary, and the United States authorities understood this perfectly. They analyzed all the mistakes in the calculations of the author of the previous project and thought of how to protect the workers from the epidemic. By the way, thanks to the new construction of the Panama Canal, 2 scientists made the discovery of yellow fever, which is caused by the bite of a mosquito that carries the pathogen of this terrible disease. Mosquitoes had to be eliminated at any cost. Not far from the construction site, whole forests were burned off, even small bushes were uprooted, the grass was cut, and swamps where mosquitoes multiplied were drained. The result was achieved: 1,500 people eliminated, almost all mosquito population, and workers were not threatened by malaria and yellow fever anymore. A new project was developed in a short time by John Frank Stevenson, who proposed to use artificial lakes and special locks that would regulate water level. As early as 1904, a new construction of the Panama Canal began, which lasted almost 10 years and cost the U.S. $400 million. However, this construction cost the lives of nearly 6,000 workers. However, the grandiose project was brought to life. On October 13, 1913, in the White House, the president pressed a special button, after what there was a colossal explosion 4,000 kilometers away from the residence of Thomas Woodrow Wilson. 20 tons of dynamite blew up the last obstacle, located near the city of Gamboa. The waters of the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans were finally connected by the Panama Canal. Speaking of the history of the construction of the Panama Canal, it is impossible to mention the fact that the U.S. invested huge sums of money in the implementation of a grandiose project and decided to hedge against it. Due to efforts of the United States, Panama was separated from Colombia and gained independence. The authorities of the country carrying democracy to the world asked for such assistance very little: eternal possession of land, water space, and the bottom of the Panama Canal, which is actually what they got. In 2006, it became known about the large-scale reconstruction of the canal. According to its results, ships with displacement up to 170,000 tons will be able to pass through it. The throughput will increase to 18.8 thousand ships a year, cargo turnover up to 600 million. The reconstruction was expected to cost $5 billion. The Panama Canal expansion project relied on 3 major engineering goals: to lay a new canal between the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans and equip both of its mouths with new lock systems, to widen and deepen existing canals, and to raise the maximum water level in Lake Gatun. As a result, it allowed for a 25% increase in the maximum length of vessels transiting the isthmus, a 51% increase in their width, and a 26% increase in their draft. In 2011, land works were completed, and the construction of 46 concrete monolithic lock chambers with a height of 30 m began to install the locks themselves. Builders began in 2014. The weight of each gate ranged from 3,285 to 4,232 tons. In August 2015, a crack was discovered in the concrete construction of the lock on the Pacific coast. Subsequently, more damage to the walls were found to eliminate them only by February 2016. Before the expansion of the channel had 2 channels for passage each with its complex locks. New project added a 3rd channel with 3 chamber locks in both. The honor did not cancel the need to pay for the transit. Casca paid the canal administration $586,000. The Panama Canal is a waterway through which luxury yachts and cargo ships daily pass. By the word of the word, its dimensions allow the passage of a vessel in the Atlantic Ocean from the Pacific, or in the opposite direction, up to 32.3 m wide. The maximum length of the vessel must not exceed 294 m. 3 bridges tower over the canal, and you can watch the movement of ships on it from the window of a car or train. Along the entire canal there is a railroad and an automobile route. On average, one passage of the canal costs about $100,000, but the price depends on the displacement of the ship, so it is not surprising that the revenue from Panama Canal tolls represents 6% of the country's GDP each year. Toll records as of January 7, 2016 max, $829,000 a 337-meter container ship and a minimum of 36 cents. That's the price for the displacement of an American that sailed through the locks back in 1928. The Panama Canal is one of the longest and busiest artificial waterways in the world, a bridge between east and west. Every year about 17.5 thousand ships carrying over 280.000.000 tons of cargo pass through the canal facilities. 5% of the world ocean freight is carried by 60 ships daily, and over 1,000 each month. The grand total for today is over 1.000.000 passages. The construction of the Panama Canal lasted a total of 33 years. The great world powers spent almost $15 billion in today's equivalent, and tens of thousands of American and European lives on it. Hundreds of millions of cubic meters of earth moved the world's largest dam and reservoir. It was unique for its time and engineering object, rightly called the new wonder of the world. This impressive man-made artery, a visible monument to the limitless possibilities of man.